You're successful in investing in real estate, but what is your end goal?
I want to have like 100 apartments or whatever, but this is nothing that I want to stop.
So welcome everyone to today's event. We are focusing on the real estate topic. And every episode or every event, we try to invite friends and family. So someone who is from our real life to come here and share the experience. Today's speaker is Home, which is very exciting because as we are talking about this topic, he also just bought a place last week and it's not his first time. So there's a lot that I have learned from him, and I think you will learn a lot from him too.
Just a little bit about myself. I'm 28 years old, Vietnamese, but I came to Germany very, very early, like when I was 3, 4, 5, something around that time. I studied in Germany. I have a work here in Germany, and I started to look into investments just a few years back, like not only real estate, but at the same time I looked into like P2P, cryptocurrencies, stocks, and ETFs and stock funds. So, and all of those assets, I spread my money, or I try to spread it evenly too, so just have a good diversification. And yeah, as Wendy already mentioned, last week I bought another property in Germany, and yeah, that was my third multi-complex house where I have several apartments in it.
So, Hone, I wonder if you can share with the audience, how did you get started in real estate? Because you're very young and then you already are very experienced in real estate. So how did you get started? What triggers you to do that?
So first of all, when I was a student, or even when I started working, I was not very much into real estate or properties because it sounds so big, right? Like if you think about like real estate, it's like the last step of investment, because it sounds like you have to have a lot of money in order even to start with all of this. And luckily, I must say that my parents supported me with that. But it wasn't much, because I bought my first property here at my parents' place. It's just a small town with 8,000 people in the city. So it wasn't much. It was about 30, 40,000. And this is the amount that my parents gave me. So that's okay. But after the whole process, I realized that the monthly rent is just coming. You only have to do a lot of work beforehand, because of course it's in Germany, and so there is a lot of paperwork and bureaucracy behind it. And yeah, that's how I got hooked into the real estate and looked more into how to professionalize it and how to make it more efficient, especially with tax, and how to find the good property in a good location.
What was the biggest challenge, I wonder? Because as we have half of the audience here that are just trying to buy a place, what was some challenging point for you? Was it to search for a place, or was it to think about questioning yourself? Is it a good investment, or like what challenged you?
I think the first step is always like, if you really want to deal with it, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work because you can buy properties very easily, but it's difficult to find a very good and affordable one. So the next step that you have to look into, or what I did, was to ask myself in which region I want to buy it. Of course, I live near Munich as well. And ideally, I would buy properties in Munich, because so I can always go there, see if there's anything wrong, or I can fix it myself if necessary. But I decided to stick to the region where my parents are, in the east of Germany, because it's way cheaper. The profit or the return is way higher. But at the same time, you have the risk that it might be empty and no one wants to live in there. These are the risks that you have to think about before you really invest in a location or property or whole region.
So your strategy is not really, I must invest in the city where I live, right? It's more wherever there's good opportunity, you would consider that.
Yes, definitely, because I think in a lot of countries and in Germany especially, they have the Hausverwaltung and they take care of most of the stuff that you can't do because it's so far away. They like the Hausverwaltung from of the company that I'm working with, they are dealing with all the contracts. They take care of the rent that it comes in monthly, they check it and then they just transfer all the money collected into my bank account every month.
About Munich, so or any expensive city here in Germany, do you feel like we're in the bubble, and is there any chance that the price will still go up, or it will be ridiculous that we buy it in Munich? Because you live in Munich and you end up not buying in Munich. What was the thinking behind it?
So first of all, the chance of the bubble risk is very high in Munich, but one of the reasons why I didn't buy in Munich is because the return of the investment is very low. So I end up paying monthly on top to own the mortgage, own the property over time. Of course, it's still a good investment because you can always be sure that people are in there, and you won't have any issues to find a tenant anytime soon. But my idea, how I want to invest, is that I just want to buy a property, find tenants, and they basically pay the mortgage. Another reason for me is that Munich is very expensive, very, very expensive. And for the same price of buying one apartment, I can buy a whole complex of houses, and even if there are only 50-60% of the apartments are rented out to tenants, it's still better and has a higher return instead of in Munich.
When we had the previous discussion, I also chat with a few people that bought in Munich. And I think from the discussion, the conclusion is that you probably don't get your monthly cash flow worth it. But the benefit of Munich is when you sell, the appreciation might be something that is very attractive, as long as you can hold it for that time frame.
I think Berlin is still a good place. Of course, definitely it's similar to Munich. You will always find tenants. But the problem nowadays is that they put a limit on how much you can charge for rent, unless it's like a newly built building. And I don't think it is a good investment for myself, because a similar situation to Munich, it's still very expensive. It's not as cheap as the normal Eastern region prices. But I wouldn't say no in the future, because Tesla is building their new factory there. I would try to find new places just to expand the region where I invest. But for now, I'm more looking into B and C regions, like Gera or sites where I want to buy next. This is like these regions are still have a population of about 50 to 200,000 people. But not like in the millions.
When you buy a place, how do you get information on if the listing is at the right price? Is there any comparable historical?
Yeah, let me share my screen. So this is one of the tools that I use to check for properties. For example, if I just put in Munich here, it would show me a lot of the listings from Immobilien Scout, Immowelt, and all other real estate companies combined, so I can find them here. And the more interesting part is that you can filter them out by how much you want to pay, the price per square meter, and even the area, what you want to have, and the rooms, from which year to which year they build it. And you have more options to narrow down all this all the properties that you can find on those websites. But the other thing is blocked by my here. this is the website that I use. For example, the last time I bought it in Gera, I just show you. They would show you the approximate price that you should pay for that street, for that area, even if you don't live. So for example, I bought it in here and the calculated price is like about 850 euro per square meter. And you can see how it went up or went down over the last few days or few years from 2018. Like there are a lot of more information that you can figure out here. And you can see the area, like how popular that area is. Like if it's yellow, then it's less popular because not many people want to live there. Whereas if you go to, you can see that this is red, which means that it's more popular. But if you check it in Munich, for example, the prices are completely different. Yeah, this is Munich. So in city center, of course, here they say like about 7,950, but especially if you go in this area where it's very, very dark, it's like about 10,000 euro per square meter that you buy. The bank, it really depends where you buy the property. For example, when I look into the B and C, which is like Gera, there's not a bank from Munich that would give me a good good interest rates. So I went ahead with a Sparkasse in Jena, which is about, I don't know, like 30 minutes drive away from the property that I bought, because then they can go there, they can check in, and they know the region themselves. I think in general, Deutsche Bank gives very good conditions, but they are a little bit more strict as well with the documents that they require. And so I think it really depends on the property that you want to get, the price range that you want to invest, because there are different banks that offer better conditions for properties with for 50,000 or 500,000 or even, I don't know, 5 million.
When did you decide that after I own my first property, I want to move on to buy the second one?
So my second one, I must say, it was a very, very lucky shot too. We spoke about it, but like I bought another property with 5-6 apartments for another 50,000. And it was something that needs to be renovated. And luckily, because it's near my parents, so my dad took a little bit care of it. But I found a lot of tenants who desperately wanted to move in there. I don't know why. I wouldn't, because it was nothing done, not a toilet, not the bathroom, not the wall. But here in Germany, it seems to be very common that people buy the kitchen, and sometimes they are even willing to, I don't know, put the new floor and the walls for you. So they decided to move in without anything. And after just 1 month, the whole complex was fully rent out. And that's why I think that, or that's why I decided to look more into it and professionalize it.
Germany, it looks like the German law actually protect the tenant a lot compared with the other countries. So have you, did you do some research on the tenant law to understand what would be some potential risks or limitations as you buy more and more rental properties?
Yes, there are a lot of, I know that the German law, they really protect the tenants. And I think most of us are living in a rental place, and I completely agree that it should be the case too. So they don't increase it every year, and they can't increase it like to a ridiculous amount, at least. But the Hausverwaltung takes care of most of those things, and there will be issues with tenants in the future. Of course, for now, I'm just very lucky, but I know of a lot of people, they have issues, and it takes them a lot of time, and it costs them a lot as well to get those tenants out. But that's why in Germany, you usually put about 3% of your income from the rent aside to cover those costs. But this is just, it can always exceed those 3% anytime. One of the safer things that I do is to rent it out to people who get the support from the government. So I try to balance it out that I know definitely for sure that I will get the payment from those people every month, because they don't pay me the money, but it's the government who pays me.
Lastly, it's about ROI. So what is your rule of thumb that if the ROI is above this threshold, I will consider it as a good investment to do it?
With the ROI, it's very interesting, of course. I would say 6% is something that you can keep in mind, because everything above 6 or 6.5% is a good percentage to pay off the mortgage without investing your own money in the mortgage monthly. But at the same time, in Munich, you will never ever be able to find a property with a return of investment with 6 and above. So in the region that I'm looking into are about 8, 9, even 10, 12%. But at the same time, you have to risk that it will not be fully rented out. So I aim for at least 8% to cover the risk and make the profit and save some money to invest even more after a certain amount of time.
That's actually good advice, because Munich is lower ROI, but you probably rent it out more steadily versus the other. Or we just all have to come and touch you to get the good luck from you.